The James Show Podcast.
Well, we still have a problem with predator teachers in North Texas. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I hate bringing you bad news like this, but it keeps happening, so we're going to keep talking about it. This story comes from WFAA, our news partners, about a teacher in Plano.
This morning, a Plano ISD teacher is booked and behind bars, accused of sexually abusing a student in his second grade class.
Chris Sadeghi joins us live outside the jail where he was moved overnight with what we've learned from police. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Matt. And the second grade teacher was booked overnight here at the Collin County Jail. This morning, we're working to get the arrest affidavit that could have more information, but we have already learned some of the details. According to Plano police, the teacher, Paul Campbell, a teacher of more than 25 years with Plano ISD, was arrested Wednesday on charges of continuous sexual abuse of a child as he was headed to a meeting at the district's administration building. This after the child's parents contacted police on July 4th following an outcry from the 8-year-old who was a student in Campbell's class at Brinker Elementary School. Police say their investigation corroborated the child's story and that the abuse happened inside the school more than once.
All right, my next guest coming on from Texas Scorecard, Aaron Anderson. Aaron Anderson, this story caught my attention because of how young the student is and how old the teacher is. Because when you put these two parts of the story together, how long has this guy been a teacher? He's 64 years old. This probably isn't the first time he's done something wrong. Aaron, this is a terrible story.
Well, yes, James, it is a terrible story. Thank you for having me back to talk about it. This teacher, Paul Campbell, 64 years old, has been a teacher in Plano ISD for almost 30 years. He's been an elementary school teacher. He's taught fourth grade. He was currently teaching second grade. And an 8-year-old girl revealed to her parents that what had been happening. She said it was not only happening to her, but to one of her friends, and they believed other girls in the classroom too. Girls only. I will keep it not too graphic, but he was touching their private areas, as they said, in class. When they would come up to his desk to ask questions, he would place his hand in their private areas and take advantage of that situation. The two girls, there's been two girls interviewed by police, only one charge yet. They both said the same story, that this had happened multiple times in the classroom and also at recess. And we have that arrest affidavit. It's linked in our article at texasscorecard.com for people that want to read the details as reported by these 8-year-old girls to authorities and can see for themselves. Again, there's been one charge filed. It's a very serious first-degree felony charge. The court has declined to issue a bond at this time. He's got a hearing. His lawyer's trying to get him a bond, get him bond, but they have decided at this time that he should not be released on bond. And I suspect there may be an additional charge, at least one additional charge coming. And certainly they've got years of history now to go back to see if there have been other instances that simply had not been reported.
Okay, Aaron Anderson, I think there would be a strong public support of a bill to add these guys to the death penalty. Can we make that happen? Do you think that would help deter some of this in the future?
Well, I would certainly hope so. And we just wrote about that this week at Texas Scorecard, because each time I post one of these articles online about these teachers, that is the exact comment that people say. There's especially these very young victims. And in fact, 6 states, starting with Florida, have enacted laws that allow for the death penalty in certain cases of child rape. It's now an option on the table in some of these heinous cases that the juries can consider. The Supreme Court in 2008 said, no, you can't do that. Child rapists cannot be put to death unless their child victim was killed, if you can imagine. But Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and these 5 other states and counting are ready to challenge that law and take it back to the Supreme Court. And they believe they may get a different decision, because it was a close 5-4 decision all those years ago. Certainly, many in Texas have said that they want this as a deterrent and a punishment when these cases are definitively proven. And we spoke with several lawmakers. Actually, there was a bill last session. It just didn't get a hearing. People weren't ready, I guess, in the legislature. But now several lawmakers have said they are on board. Senator Mays Middleton, who's the Republican nominee for Texas Attorney General, has said he is on board, and several others. So I expect we will certainly at least see such a bill considered and debated in the legislature next year.
If you ask me just at any time on during the day if I think child predators should be put to death, I would say yes. But after you read the details of this story, how young these girls are, what he did, how long he's been doing this, my answer just becomes a hell yes. And can we just line them up against the wall and shoot them right now?
Well, now, funny you should say that. Idaho, one of the states that has enacted a death penalty option for child rapists, they also just recently reinstated the firing squad as their preferred method of execution, simply because it is efficient, believe it or not, as opposed to these other methods. It's the fastest and the least expensive and the quickest for for all involved. So I get that that's a kind of a visceral reaction. People want to kind of feel that, that justice. But yes, reading these stories, and I read a lot of them, James. I don't recommend that everybody click through and look at these affidavits when they're available, because you can't unsee this stuff. But I do. It's my job. And certainly for these families involved and for these victims, especially when they're very young. Some of the young, we reported on one last week, a 4-year-old victim. So this is, there's a line that gets crossed. And people feel like there needs to be a stronger penalty.
Aaron, let's get that bill ready. I guess they're back in session, in January? Let's see if we can do something about this.
January 12th, we'll be watching for it, and we'll be reporting on it.
Well, I do not have a lot of fun when I'm talking to you, but it's super important stuff. Thank you very much for going through all this, Aaron. Hey there, happy Friday. You're just in time for Garrett's World on the James Show. News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. And you get to hear a lot about what I think for the rest of the show time. But we set aside one segment for the young man on the other side of the glass. His name's Garrett. And this is his world, Garrett's World.
I love Texas. And I also love Texas nature. So let's see how well my fellow Texans know about the latter.
What is the Texas state mammal?
The coyote?
I don't know.
The wallaby.
Buffalo? I can't think right now.
My guess is armadillo.
Armadillo.
Armadillo?
Armadillo. Longhorn.
Longhorn.
But it wasn't bad.
Brief pause here. There are actually 3 correct answers to this question. The small mammal of Texas is the armadillo. The large mammal of Texas is the longhorn. And the flying mammal of Texas is the Mexican free-tailed bat. All right, let's continue.
What is the Texas state flower?
Bluebonnet.
Bluebonnet. Bluebonnet. Bluebonnet.
Bluebonnet.
Bluebonnet.
Bluebonnet. Bluebonnet.
The bluebonnet.
What is the Texas state bird?
Robin.
Eagle.
Blue jay.
Pigeon. That's the only bird that comes to mind.
Now you got me there. I forgot it.
I don't know why I'm thinking of a turkey, but that's not right.
It's not a mockingjay, is it?
Mockingbird.
It's a mockingbird, isn't it?
What is the Texas state reptile?
A green knoll.
Alligator?
Crocodile. A snake, right?
Rattlesnake.
The lizard? Horned lizard.
The horned frog.
So the official classification of the Texas state reptile is the horned lizard. Some people even call it the horny toad, but they're both wrong. As the last contestant said, and as my fellow TCU alum will proudly know, its real name is the Horn Frog. With that, this has been Garrett's World. Be sure to tune in next time for more interesting questions and even more interesting answers.
All right. Good job, Garrett. Where did you find these people? Was this right outside here at the American Airlines Center again?
Yeah, and I actually got lucky because there was a concert going on, and so I had a bevy of people I could just talk to, and a lot of them were really young, so close to my age, which was also perfect.
Interesting. So it almost sounds like you started with a trick question, though, when you asked what's the state mammal of Texas, and there's 3 answers.
Yep, and if either any of those guys got one of those three mammals right, then they got the answer right, and I decided to include that in the segment today because it's just a fun fact, people don't think too much about, and I just thought, why not tell them?
Very good. All right, good stuff. That's Garrett. Welcome to Garrett's World. Not too bad. Getting better every week. All right, coming up next on the James Show, my next guest is a guy, Michael Quinn Sullivan, and he is a guy over at Texas Scorecard, and he does a daily update, or at least during the week, he does daily updates. And one of them caught my attention. He was breaking down how much money George Soros is spending in Texas elections and where it's going, which that sounds interesting. I want to get more details on that, and we'll find out together next. But, the Texas race here has become almost a national story. Ted Cruz was asked, I believe, sounded like Greg Abbott was filling in for Hannity, but Abbott's asking Ted Cruz here if Tallarico has a real chance of winning, and it sounds like he kind of does.
Do you think that Jimmy Tallarico really has a chance to win the race for the United States Senate in the state of Texas?
So, look, unfortunately, I do think he has a chance. I think this is a real race. I think it's going to be close. I think we're going to win. I think we're going to keep Texas red. But the polling right now shows this as a 1 or 2 point race.
Right. And judging by my next guest, a lot of this influence is coming from outside of Texas, and some of it's coming from outside of America. And I saw this from his regular news updates, the Texas Minute. Michael Quinn Sullivan's coming on, and he did a report talking about how much George Soros is spending in Texas elections. And I think the rest of the world needs to hear how big these numbers are.
Yeah, these are big numbers that we're looking at from George Soros. He's long been interested in Texas. A lot of the left-wing donors have long been interested in trying to move Texas into the Democrat column. This year, in state-level races alone, Soros and his family are putting, we know for sure, have so far put just over $8.5 million into state-level races alone. That doesn't count the money that they're pumping in to impact, say, the U.S. Senate race. Those are just state house, state senate, lieutenant governor, those kind of races.
So which races is he spending on here?
He's putting his money into the Texas Majority PAC. A lot of the money is going into what's called the Texas Majority PAC. That's about $7.5 million going in there, and that cash is going in primarily to try to move state house races, the state legislature. Why is that important? Because the state house is where in 2030 the redistricting will begin for the new district maps for Congress, with Texas getting 4 new congressional seats, impacting the state legislature could literally reshape the future of the United States. So with the congressional seats coming to Texas and those sorts of things, Texas is a big prize, and they're trying to spend money to loosen shift a few of those districts from the Republican column to the Democrat column.
Does he do this in every state, or does he just focus on a couple of states? Does he spread it all the way around?
So Soros it's estimated that Soros is spending about $103 million nationally. So, Texas represents about a tenth of that, if you will. But again, we don't know yet. Not every state has the same kind of reporting requirements that Texas does. Some more aggressive, some less aggressive. So we really do have to kind of wait and see for another month or two to where he's spending his money. Most observers, though, most of the folks that we've talked to are pretty convinced that Soros and his son are seeing Texas as their big prize in 2026. And so the assumption is that one way or another, a lot of their cash is going to be being spent in the Lone Star State.
Michael Quinn Sullivan, is this all ideologically motivated, or is there some sort of way he makes money off of this control?
Now, this is ideologically motivated for Soros. He doesn't have he didn't earn his money and doesn't continue to earn his money in ways that Texas regulates, that Texas oversees. It's not like he wants to build a Denny's across the street from your studio or something. His money is made through hedge funds and things like that. No, this is purely ideological for the Soroses, and maybe not even ideological necessarily so much as is partisan. They want Democrats, and they want their particular brand of left-wing Democrats running the country. And to do that, they've got to go through Texas.
Well, do we have an equivalent on the other side of the aisle? Is there a right-wing George Soros that's balancing this out?
There are certainly a number of folks in Texas, large dollar donors. Look, many of whom get criticized on the left, the same way I guess many of us would criticize George Soros. I'm thinking of folks like Tim Dunn from Midland. I'm thinking of Miriam Adelson, who's not from Texas. She's a California and Israel person, but she gives on the right. There are folks like that on the right who are trying to balance those scales. At the end of the day, though, you don't have the same kind of fervor from conservative and Republican donors as you do from folks like George Soros. I think a lot of those Republican donors, you think of someone like Elon Musk, who definitely aligns on the Republican, maybe Republican libertarian side of things. But his money is tied up in launching satellites into outer space and building electric cars and things like that. Soros just has a lot of cash. And so whatever interests a lot of the Republican leaning donors might have, their cash is their wealth is tied up in producing things, whereas Soros just has big piles of money laying around.
How old is this guy? Does this problem go away when he goes away?
No, Soros is like 900 years old or so. No, I'm only kidding. Soros is a guy in his he's getting into his 80s, but his son, and my brain is not processing the son's name at
Alex.
the moment. But Alex, thank you. His son is already stepping into the day-to-day management of the spending of the Soros money, and you're talking in the billions of dollars. Alex Soros. Even when George is long gone, Alex will still have billions to spend. Many folks have noted that while George Soros seems a little restrained in his liberal and leftist advocacy, in part because he did go out legitimately and make money, understanding how financial markets work. Alex is just a very enculturated leftist who has zero love for the way his father made the money. Alex Soros is the true ideologue in that family who is going to be using that money for decades to come.
All right, Michael Quinn Sullivan, how effective has George Soros been in flipping some of these seats?
Yeah, look, here's the good news, right? All this sounds like really bad news. The good news is that George Soros would have been just as effective over the past 20 years that he's been spending money in Texas, trying to flip Texas. If he had taken that money and set it out in the middle of the street and lit it on fire, he would have been just as effective. They have not succeeded. But look, I think that when you're someone like George Soros, who's used to playing the hedge markets and understanding the value of making small moves, that's spending $100 million there, $10 million here. They hope all that will add up down the line. But at the end of the day, George Soros and Alex Soros have the exact same number of votes in Texas on both people. They have none. That if folks don't like the way George Soros is spending money in Texas, the surefire way for folks to work against that is to make sure they are voting and getting their friends and neighbors out to vote as well.
Well, I appreciate your report. Keeping an eye on the campaigns going on in Texas. This is Michael Quinn Sullivan. Find more of his great work at TexasScorecard.com. Thanks, Michael.
Thank you, my friend. Have a great day.
The James Show Podcast.